let's take it up a notch, as I always like to say during my presentations, and take it to the next level. Now, when we look at our trace library over here, of course, we have area, count, length, and perimeter, just like what we have up on the toolbar. If we want to use leaves, we can. Then we have the library that we can use over and over and over, moves from one plan to the next. In this case, we want to take a line and make it more than a line. We want an area to be more than just an area, getting the square foot. By the way, with every takeoff that we do, we get the point, the length, the perimeter, and area. But in this case, what we want to do is give you the opportunity to put specifications in based upon that particular wall takeoff. So you can see an E right there. It's very apparent when I zoom in or zoom out. What that E is telling me is I don't want to leave any money on the table. I don't want to miss any attributes that may be associated with that wall. Great. We want to give you a safety net that will ensure you don't miss anything. Well, in this case right here, if we follow the bouncing cursor, it will take us over to our panel over here where we will see point, length, perimeter, and area, but see some additional information we need to complete. Great. Well, in this case, maybe the wall is going to be 10 foot high. Maybe it's going to be 16-inch spacing for the studs. And we're going to have two sides plus the sheetrock that goes along with it. Now we've done the track, the studs, the drywall, and we've calculated that all out. Now, how many times when you get into a project that this is your typical wall, your standard wall that is throughout the whole floor? Well, what we can do is we can drop this into project favorites, name it by wall type A, specific to the job, right? Now we can utilize that as a takeoff mechanism. Now I've just taken off that whole wall system right there. Or we can double click on that and use that as our takeoff trace as well. Here's the key to this, is you'll notice that that E is black now. Well, that means that we're answering all the questions. So once you've answered those variable questions once, those specifications, attributes if you come from the CAD world, once we've answered them, we're good to go. Now it is not, we're not going to have to answer those variable questions over and over and over again. And by the way, for those of you that have looked at our estimating solution or work with our estimating solution, kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing here. When we look at those variables, well, what are our items and assemblies made up of? Variables. What we're going to do is give you the capability to connect those two together and easily generate the cost to your estimate. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But looking at this particular wall, let's say that it really should be 12 foot. We very easily can enter that information, any of the differences into the specifications, and we've got that accomplished. So let's take it up another notch. So now we understand that these traces can be more than just a line, just an area. We can put specifications that make sense, in this case the wall height, and that of course generating the drywall. And we can take advantage of other things that we can put into the system to make it your own. Easily modify these traces to fit your business. We'll jump down here to a selection that I've already made here, where I've already taken off some slabs right here. These could be flooring, these could be anything, sublayering, whatever it may be that you're taking off that represents a square foot for these rooms. But in this case, in the demonstration, this will be concrete. Let's take a look at some things as we look at the profile of this slab on grade here. If we move over here, we can see the information that is consistent, or these attributes or specifications about that particular slab. Point, length, perimeter, and area. Great. Well, now we have a drop-down menu that says, well, maybe we're going to change that to 4,000 PSI, and we'll change that to 66, our wire mesh right there. Now, one thing that you look at, you're going to notice some notes right here. That is coming from our Sage estimating solution. Now, as you've seen, I've tabbed down here. There's some other information we want to enter because these are work breakdown structures. Work breakdown structures, if you're used to the SAGE estimating solution, can be mimicked in this application. When this flows over into the estimating, I'm going to change this to floor number 4, and of course building number 4 as well, just as an example for this presentation. Now we've seen the profile of that slab. Let's bring up our bridge. And our bridge is the solution that, well, in essence, bridges the gap between our estimating and the e-takeoff solution. In this case right here, we'll create a bridge. Say OK. Now what you're going to notice here is when we open up this bridge, we're going to see our database, the database that you utilize every day within the estimating software. We're going to see all of the items, all of our assemblies that are going to be available to us. In this case, you know what? We may want to take off a project manager and say, well, he's going to be out there for 2 months. It can be items that are not quantified on the plan. You can do all your takeoff right from here. And we will also see the assemblies. When I look at this slab on grade right here, these are the variables for that assembly coming from our estimating solution. Now as we look down here, these are the items that we're quantifying. So take it a step further. I'm going to move this slab onto that assembly. You're going to notice a couple things happen right there. Well, first of all, if you look at this information, the variables, they're already filled out. Why? Because we've mapped them together. And this mapping process is very easy. We can go ahead, and these are the specifications, by the way, for the slab that we took off. Remember how I changed it to 4,066? Those are being reflected right here. But back to that mapping. Mapping is one of those easy things. It's just like connecting the dots, drag and dropping, and saying, this area belongs here. Once you've mapped these, once they've been mapped, then the system will learn and it will be persistent through every plan into the future, even this particular project that we've done. So once you've mapped them, you're good to go. And there's some power that we're going to get from that as we go further into this presentation. But at this point, what you'll see is that mapping is done. And then what you also will see is, remember how I changed it from building 4 and what floor that was on? That's been mapped as well. Again, once the mapping is done, then it's saved until you make a change to it. So let's go ahead and update the estimate. Well, I just sent that over to the estimate. I just costed that out to the estimate. Now, as an estimator, I want to protect myself to ensure I don't duplicate myself or miss anything, right? So I may have gotten a call. I want to come back from a meeting. I want to know what I've sent over to the estimating, so I can hide every one of those items that I've sent over to the estimating. I can hide or show it if I want, but we want to protect you beyond that. We want to look at this and say, oh, if I drag and drop this on that slab again, it's going to alert me that I've already sent this over to the estimating solution. So we can say no on that. And then last but not least, we have a review functionality that will tell us what we've sent over as well. Now, we have an overlay system. Basically, it will overlay a new plan over an existing plan. We won't get into that for this presentation, but just know that we can do that. And this, for the sake of this presentation, what we will do is we'll make a change to this. How many times do we get change orders, addendums, where these particular objects that we've taken off will change? All the time. So in this case right here, we'll make this change to this, and that's all we'll do. We can change specifications, naming convention, so on and so forth. But in this case, we'll just make that simple change, and then we'll have the system go out and find and tell us that those changes have happened. What we want to do is make it very easy for you to keep up with all of those changes from the plan side and update the estimate. So in this case right here, I want an audit trail. And I want to have some notations that give me further description, further details about that change. Now, once we've done that, we can update the estimate and send those changes over into the estimating solution. We'll talk a little bit about what happens over there and the audit trail that we get through that process. Last but not least, when you look at the solution, we can have it automatically now go out and find all of those slabs. Every one of those slabs that are represented in this particular takeoff, we can go out and find, and it will get it for us. It will find all of those for us automatically. And just to drive the point home a little bit further, what I'll do is I'll go do a quick takeoff with our slab on this first floor. Let's just very quickly go out. I'm just going to do a takeoff. I don't even care. I'm not trying to be Mr. Perfect there. And I'll say Darren. And I'll finish the attributes for that as well. Now we're good to go. When we refresh it, you'll notice it's found Darren and all of the other slabs. Let's go ahead, drill down, and see that slab right there. Let's update the estimate. Let's go ahead and send all of those costs over into the estimating system. So think about how powerful this is, how much efficiency that you can gain once you've mapped everything. And by the way, we have databases that are completely mapped and have built out trace libraries already for you. We can tweak them, make them specific to your company, and you're up and running. But in this case right here, now we'll close this and go over into our estimate and see all of those costs. I'll combine those like items, pretty it up, and now we see all of those costs that have been sent over into the estimating solution. A lot of my clients go through the review process in the assembly tab here, and when you look at that, we've already sent our project manager over here. Look, he's going to cost us about $18,000 for those 2 months he's going to be out on site. We can roll this information up and see all of those slabs that have been taken off. And here's the one that I changed the name. We had that change order. We made that change to the slab. Now let's quickly review that information. Pass 1. The reversal of pass 1, because these variable answers are no longer relevant. And now the third pass is the most relevant, up-to-date variable information. And we've got our note in here that tells us why that change happened. So think about how powerful that is in your review process, where maybe you have a junior estimator that completes that information and gives you more detail so you don't have to go ask them a question. Came right over from the digital takeoff.